Well, Australians are being ripped off by banks, energy companies, airlines and supermarkets, according to findings in a report by the former ACCC boss Alan Fells. There are calls for the government to step in with better protections to stop the near constant exploitation. Joining us live now, Nationals leader David Littleproud. David, good to see you. Thanks for your time. So what did you make of his recommendations yesterday and what he had to say?
Yeah, look, it validates everything the Nationals have been saying. We saw blatant evidence of this, particularly at the supermarkets, only over the last 6 to 12 months. We saw meat prices at the farm gate drop by about 60 to 70%, but only drop at the checkout by 8%. And that was clearly evident that the supermarkets were taking advantage of a falling market that fell off a cliff and not passing on to consumers. And then you look into the fresh produce, $1.50 they're paying a kilo for a watermelon, yet they're to the farmer, yet they're charging over $4.50 at the checkout, and it doesn't have that much processing of a watermelon once it's taken out of the paddock. So look, I think it's time. We said that the government were too slow to act. I gave them every opportunity, gave them 12 months to say, bring forward all your reviews, let's actually get this over and done with. But also, we needed the ACCC when there was clear evidence that was there and plain as in sight that we should have had the ACCC investigate the supermarkets and then prosecute the supermarkets if they could have found that evidence. And unfortunately, the government's been asleep at the wheel, and I think we need more reform. And Professor Fells talks about divestiture powers. That's something that the Nationals have been talking about for a long time. I think it's now time for us as legislators to come together and get that structure right.
The restriction of Qatar flights was used as a primary example of anti-competitive behaviour here, but how do you turn that back, whether it is airlines or whether it's supermarkets? Because the biggest players have just become too powerful.
Yeah, and this is about trying to increase competition, and that takes time. And that's why until that can take effect, you need to have safeguards. You need to have penalties there to protect the supplier, protect the consumer. And when you look at the Qatar decision, it was just bizarre, to say the least. And now they're opening up to other airlines, but not Qatar. Something just didn't smell right about that whole decision. And it's about time that we actually created greater competition, more slots at these airports for international flights, because Australians are paying more because of that. And there can't be a sweetheart deal between Qantas and the government. It has to be transparent and fair, and we need more competition, not less.
IR changes are going through, David, a victory, an early victory for Labor this year. How do you feel about that this morning?
Well, it might be a political victory, but I think you'll find that many Australian businesses will be very concerned, and I think Australian workers should be concerned, because if this means that it's all too hard and it's all too expensive for employers, then ultimately what will happen is they'll start to make decisions about their business, about the number they employ and how they employ them, particularly when you look around the casual aspect of it. In agriculture, casual employment is very important because of the seasonality of it. And this really does put into question the Labor use of casual employees in agriculture. The NFF's been very concerned about this, and that workers can now determine themselves to be casuals, but on a seasonal basis. There'll be times when there's no work at all on that property. They can go to full time, and this is where we just need some common sense.
So do you agree then with the business community this morning that the fact that, workers can now basically screen calls from the boss and not get in trouble for that, do you think that would be bad for business?
Well, I think business and workers have sorted this out with this good old thing called common sense. They've used it in balance. So let me tell you, I don't think businesses and business owners are sitting there at night wanting to do work as well. They want to be with their families. And as the Prime Minister even said yesterday, where there is cases where there's needed to be contact after hours, there's already arrangements that can be taken place between the employee and the employer. Why government has to reach in to every facet of the economy and particularly employment just makes it harder for business owners. So I think we don't need big government in everyone's life. We can stay out of it, and we can let some common sense take its course. And I think that's the overwhelming path that's taken place for generations since technology has come in. And I think we just need to take a deep breath and understand this is just an overreach, and it was a thought bubble by the Greens.